Today on Locked On Rockies, leading the way are the young Rockies in the series win against the Cincinnati Reds. How important is it to see the bottom of the order come alive and lead a win like that? Short answer, very.
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, the 17th day of May in the year 2023. I am your host of the Locked On Rockies podcast, Paul Holden, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. And if your team is the Colorado Rockies, well, guess what? You are in the right spot, because that's what we do around here each and every single day, is talk about the Colorado Rockies. And we thank you for making us your first listen of the day and for being an everyday listener of the pod. Shout outs to you. Thank you to you. Appreciate you all for tuning in. Today's episode of the Locked On Rockies podcast is also being streamed live on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, where you can be part of the show just like A. Jenkins is. Hello to you. And folks, I'm Paul Holden, your Rockies fan extraordinaire. Been following the team my entire life, been doing this daily pod for you for 3 seasons now. We are recapping the series with the Reds a little bit. We'll dive more into some nuts and bolts and stuff tomorrow, as we're going to be getting into a crossover there with Locked On Reds. But wanted to focus on the big storyline of today's game. It's the bottom of the order. It's exactly what we're trying to see from the bottom of the order, especially with some of the names in this lineup. Harold Castro, Michael Toglia, Brenton Doyle, and Alan Trejo all play a pivotal role in getting the Rockies back on the board and back into this game, especially on a day when Austin Gomber was not sharp, was not good. Over 8 hits, 5 earned, over 4.1 innings, so 4 1/3 innings there. Only the 1 strikeout for Gomber, but that's okay. I mean, that's a big mental win for the Rockies in this one today, because of how bad and how down things looked, especially when for things on offense. It kind of had the classic, it had everything going for a Rockies loss. And what we had seen a lot in this series here already to the Reds, where the offense wasn't necessarily coming alive and being as clutch as it was, especially in the game prior to that. The Rockies, though, of course, going in that back and forth slugfest there in the first game with a little more offense there. So what we saw in this game was the benefits of trusting and going with these young guys, believing and saying, hey, we're going to go with Michael Toglia at first base and allow him the opportunity for chances like this. His single was the thing that started off the 5-run inning for the Rockies that got things back in order, and that is followed up by the rest of the bottom of the Rockies lineup doing their job as well. Harold Castro, a couple of hits there in the lineup before Toglia. But Brenton Doyle, RBI triple, massive, 2 hits and 2 RBI in that game. Alan Trejo with a hit and a walk. That leads, Charlie Blackmon's able to get on a couple of times thanks to the walk. He drives in a run because of that. Jurickson Profar has a good night, a good day at the yard, couple of RBI. And Chris Bryant, it's not flashy. It's not the long ball, but that is how the Rockies work. That's exactly how you want to set it up. And it's a huge benefit when you're getting production at the bottom of the order. That's how you get these big wins. That's how you can completely flip the script in the middle of the games, is if you're getting production from the bottom half of the lineup and the bottom half of the order. That is something that has escaped the Rockies for a long time. The Rockies have had a lot of issues where it comes to a top-heavy lineup that falls off at the bottom. When you're able to have these players come up and be successful at the bottom part of the lineup, that is massive for the Rockies. However, the one thing that you have to remember with it being led by these young guys is Let's see what happens when Brenton Doyle faces a team for the second time. Let's see what happens when they get a little bit more tape on these guys, and how can the young guys show adjustment? That's really the big question facing Brenton Doyle right now at this moment after another strong series and another strong game. The error in center field aside, is what's going to happen when when people see Doyle a little bit more, and how is he going to handle it? It's a good sign that the Rockies' adversity was handled by the young guys, or at least started to change the outcome and the script of the game was led by the younger guys in this finale. And especially in a situation that looked like the Rockies were continuing the same trend as the night before, with getting nothing going on offense and being stymied at home. Instead, the Rockies completely, the offense comes completely alive. The Rockies have two back-to-back, they have a 5-run inning in the 5th, 6 runs in the 7th, and then they're able to hang on there in the end. Because, the Rockies had the clutch hits because Cincinnati only had one less hit in that game when it came down to it, and they only scored the 6. But the Rockies were able to draw the crucial walks and get have the nice key base hits. Surprisingly enough, the Rockies doing it without the long ball as well. The home run really not the big factor for the Rockies in this game. The Reds put a couple of them out of the yard there, but it has been awesome. I mean, and it's awesome to see games like this, because that reminds you what the possibilities look like ahead for the Rockies, and why the Rockies should continue to embrace this and do this. The Reds aren't a great team, sure, but that's exactly, you need to beat teams like that at home if you want to have a chance and if you want to be competitive. So, all in all, the big takeaway from this game especially is that the rebound of the Rockies in this series to win this series was led by young Rockies. And then when it came to clutch situations, the veteran players that the Rockies need to look to come up big in situations did. Charlie Blackmon was effective at the dish. Chris Bryant was effective at the dish. Chris Bryant almost had an opportunity for 3 run-scoring hits today if it wasn't for an incredible play from the Red shortstop jumping up and robbing that pitch, or robbing that laser, I should say. But that's how it's supposed to work. The young guys set up the veteran guys, and the veteran guys knock them in, while the young guys also come in there, have their factor, be the factor that they are, and drive in some runs as well. When it comes to scoring runs and driving in runs, Doyle had 2. Elias Diaz leading the way. We haven't talked again about the summer of Elias Diaz continuing. What a delight and what a treat that is as well, to be getting some of not only just great catcher play, but some of the best catching play in all of baseball right now. I believe there was a graphic that showed up on the screen of this game here where he is just behind JT Realmuto for most hits from a catcher. He's throwing, he's throwing over 50% of the base stealers out. And he was effective in this game, coming up with clutch hitting as well. Would love to see the Rockies utilize the long ball a little bit more, of course, but it shows, put the ball in play, good things happen. I mean, that's what Chris Bryant, that's the motto Chris Bryant's living off of right now, and it's working for him so far. Of course, we'd love to see the big power bat from Chris Bryant, but I'm never going to be upset for a multi-hit game and getting your OPS close to 400 there for Chris Bryant, who I believe is also batting over 300. So it's maybe a little concerned that the power isn't developed or showing up for Bryant right now, but I'm also not going to be that worried if he can consistently hit and continue to drive runners in, especially in situations like the Rockies had in this game. That's how you win those games. Another example here of what the Rockies weren't doing in April. This game is a prime example. 5-0 lead in April. It's brutal. There'd be a brutal loss. There'd be more things to go. This is the game that has shown some adjustment. The bad team comes into Coors Field and they want to make the noise. Instead, the Rockies are the one that makes the noise there and break out the offense, especially after a disappointing performance. Because all in all, when you think about it, the Rockies missed a sweep opportunity here. The Rockies missed a chance to get a little bit closer, and I believe tie their record up at home with 500. They certainly had just kind of stifled yesterday. And again, here's the big difference in yesterday's game when you look at the result And what happens when the bottom of your order doesn't produce anything? When the Rockies have from their 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 hole hitters, because and with Harold Castro pinch hitting, only 2 hits amongst them. I mean, and that from the whole second half of the lineup. You can't have that, especially not at home. So great adjustment for the Rockies today, especially in game, because they turned in to be going to get some aggression there. But nice win for the Rockies. Tough road ahead, as Luxace points out here in the live chat. Let's talk about a little bit of the worrisome stuff from the game today. And we got to give our props to Riley Pint, even though it didn't go that well today here. But let's do that coming up in segment number 2. But before we do that, I got to tell you about the revolutionary way to play fantasy baseball. And I know that you all out there love to play fantasy baseball. I know that you love to play for big prizes. And guess what? Sorare's got you covered. Sorare games happen twice weekly in span of 3 to 4 day cycle. At the end of the game weeks, you can win a variety of great prizes, including scarcity cards, game tickets, merchandise, signed jerseys, and VIP experiences like meeting MLB stars. You're like, how the heck do I do that? I want to get involved. All you got to do is play for free. No cost to you, and start building your team with Sorare player cards. It's a revolutionary fantasy baseball game and marketplace, transforming fans into owners with officially licensed digital cards featuring players from across all 30 MLB teams. You're collecting, buying, selling, and competing with player cards against global opponents to win epic rewards. Win or lose, you still own your cards, and like I said, no cost to play. You can check it out for yourself at sorare.com/locked-on. That's SORARE.com to draft your team of free player cards. Set your lineup and start competing today to win epic rewards. Again, that's sorare.com/locked-on to start playing today. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast. We're free and streaming on your favorite streaming service, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day. And shout outs to our everydayers out there. We're going to do a more deep dive breakdown into this series for the Rockies tomorrow as well, when we look into some of the nuts and bolts team philosophy stuff with a crossover of Locked On Reds. We talked about the good stuff. We talked about the young guys leading the way. Got to talk about some of the blemishes. This wasn't really a clean series for the Rockies, and not really an overall convincing or great homestand for the Rockies as well, even though they did finish 500. In the season, in the grand scheme of things, you have to win the ugly games too, and that's what the Rockies did. Even with the breakout and the bust out today, this game wasn't the prettiest, especially for the first half of it, and in some issues on defense as well. But the difference is the Rockies won those games. They didn't do that against Philly. They had opportunities to win some of those games, to get back in there and flip the script. They just weren't able to do that. And my big issue is my one concern that I have with the Rockies when it comes to this is that 1-run loss yesterday and how the game starts there. The offense needs to get going a little bit quicker, but when you look at the Rockies overall in this homestand, the 1 run is the lowest amount. Crooked numbers in all of the games outside of that, including a 1 double-digit run performance and the 9-run win over the Reds there in that one. So more offense for sure, but we're starting to see a little bit of the issues when it comes to the starting pitching depth and the pitching depth overall with the Rockies. We've seen issues. We talked about it in the Phillies series. We talked about some of some choices there. And these games matter. The thing, we're starting to things were going so good, led by these guys, but we're just like with Gomber today. We're seeing a little bit of the possible cracks in the foundation of what's been helping the Rockies be successful so far, and kind of more of a regression back to the mean. I mean, again, the Rockies played over a 10-game stretch, 8-2 ball, and they're still, in the last games, still playing good baseball. This is now, they've won 2 of their last 3 series that they have played, actually going back even more than that. The Phillies series, the first series they've lost in quite some time. Actually, the first series they lost, except for the Brewers, I'm sorry. The first series they've lost since the Brewers series. with the Diamondback series going above that. So even in this kind of mediocre homestand when it comes to overall production, the Rockies are still playing winning baseball. But the big issue, like we saw today, is that the Rockies are giving a lot of free chances, a lot of opportunity to teams, and not really just kind of slamming the door shut. I mean, Riley Pint makes it into the major leagues. Absolutely great. Congratulations. He is someone that's been able to do something really hard, flip the script, but it's just you hold your breath because, again, Austin Gomber, 2 walks, Suter with the walk, Bird with the walk, Riley Pint with the walks there in this one. If you go back into the game yesterday, let me get that pulled up here when it comes to walks there. The Rockies, every pitcher, walk, and those walks came back to bite the Rockies in that 2-run loss there against the Reds. And then you go back into the first game of the series as well when it comes to the pitching staff. 3 walks from Connor Siebold, a walk from Daniel Bard, and a walk from Pierce Johnson. Those things matter. They need to be a little bit more sharp, a little bit more get those corner pitches and be a little bit more clean in these innings, especially when you're looking to escape these games. But the good news is, the offense has been able to back them up. This was a game where the Rockies needed their offense in this finale, and it came alive in the moment they needed him most. So, the Rockies were. I'm just worried. I'm starting to worry a little bit more with the injuries mounting up, with Lawrence kind of having his struggles of late, with Pierce Johnson having a couple of struggles of late. Are we about to see the bad stretch return? Are we going to see the Rockies slip back into a lack of command from their offense? And how are they going to fare coming up against a stretch of 3 good teams? I know the Rockies beat the Mets, but again, it's a Mets team looking to turn things around. Marlins, I know, aren't the flashiest team, but a team with a ton of great pitching. So if we're going to face a situation with the Marlins coming up and you're looking at a game like in Game 2 of this series against the Reds, the Rockies pitching staff has got to be the reason that they can stay in those close ball games if the offense is going to be, stifled by a good Marlins rotation and a team that has had some history of beating the Rockies and a history of keeping them, out of the win column. But Tanner Notman is right. The Rockies right now are finishing their ball games, and they did against the Reds in 2 games that they needed to get things done. 2 out of 3, they were able to do it, and like we said, opportunities in that 3rd one. So my main concerns coming out of this series and coming out of the homestand as a whole is that pitching depth and how this pitching depth looks and will fare going forward with the Rockies here. So because Gomber's special, but the thing with Gomber, you're disappointed by the start today, but he's it's kind of was due for one. That's how things go. But it's exactly how the Rockies need to, because I was really glad I didn't start the podcast when I wanted to, or when I was about to, when the game was 5-0. The Rockies were able to back up their pitching and come back into this one, make Coors Field the threat, use the advantage of being the home team there, and they were the ones that piled it on and were able to have the big couple of innings, which they were waiting to have in this game, and were waiting to do, especially they didn't have in Game 2, and they drastically needed it there. So that's the positives. The positives there is that the offense has been able to step up when the pitching hasn't been sharp in this series. Again, because the Rockies have been let up some runs here against Phillies. They did give up the 13 before shutting them out, meaning the Rockies were able to get right in there, and they were only outscored by the Phillies by, if my quick math is correct, there by 2 runs in that series. And then here in this series, the Rockies outscore the Reds. I think actually, let's see here. They outscored the Reds by 5, which is the difference maker in the final game there in this one. So good signs, good solid signs, even in those concerns. even in a couple of series that weren't great, there's good signs to look there and hope for the future. It's just, can the Rockies navigate this rotation and kind of, a bullpen that has been great, but is showing signs of weakness here of late when they go up against some good teams. The Rockies are going to face one of their biggest and best tests of the weekend, of the year, coming up this weekend with the matchup against Texas. Texas is a good team. It's a road series for the Rockies. This is a big, big test for the Rockies coming up in this series here, as the Rockies, if they do win this series, say they would get above 20 games won on the season, get to about 5 games. If you go 2 and 3 in the series, they'd be 5 games below 500. But they're gonna have to step it up. They're gonna have to do what they did today on the road as well, and they're gonna have to do it if their pitchers can't perform. But that's all. That whole segment's kind of a lot of what ifs. It's a lot of it might happen as the solid to good stretch for the Rockies continues, even if it isn't as winning as you want it to be. What did we say? 500 on the homestand is okay. Could have been better, but it's okay. Let's finish up the show. Let's take your comments. Let's dive into the live chat here and let's reminisce. Let's talk. Let's bask in the glow of a good win, as well as we recap our Rockies news here. And I want to just highlight a couple of things that it's another thing I'm thinking a lot about with the Rockies here. Let's do that coming up here in segment number 3. But before we do that, we got a new sponsor to tell you about. I'm wearing the shorts right now, and I'm feeling great. They are Birddogs. Birddogs are perfect for a guy like me who wears shorts all the time and are looking for a nicer pair of shorts, but also need comfy, stretchy fabric. They're designed for a guy like me, and I'm rocking some right now. They feel great. I can keep they got great pockets. One of my biggest things is they have great pockets, including zipper pockets, which are so great, especially if you want to use them for any sort of activity, really, because they look stylish enough that you can go out and enjoy yourself and maybe handle a little business cash, or if you're like me, someone that, would just wear shorts all the time, needs a little bit cleaner look, they can even do it. And you can play it. Yeah, I could do anything really in these. I could hike, I could bike, I could go to a meeting, I could do whatever in these Birddog shorts I'm rocking right now. Go to birddogs.com/LockedOnMLB, and when you enter promo code LockedOnMLB, they're going to throw in a free custom Birddogs Yeti-style tumbler with every order. Go see for yourself. It's summer. Go get you some new shorts at birddogs.com/LockedOnMLB. And when you enter the promo code LockedOnMLB, they'll throw in that free custom Birddogs Yeti-style tumbler with every order. This is the Locked On Rockies podcast, free and streaming on your favorite streaming service and live on the Locked On YouTube channel, the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, I should say. Luxay says Doyle is goated. IDK if we will keep him, though, because I don't think he is in our future outfield plans when we have Benny. Benny Montgomery is a good while away. I would say Benny Montgomery is 3 seasons at least away from being considered a everyday part of the Rockies outfield. So you have plenty of time to figure out what you want to do with Brenton Doyle, especially as you figure out what you want to do with Zach Veen. But let's see here. Jenkins says Diaz came up so clutch with the 2-out, 2 RBI single. Ugh. Just chef's kiss from Elias Diaz. I mean, a guy that I can't keep bringing this up enough. Until this good stretch concludes, until he stops playing, having the best season of his career, this is so important. Good catcher plays so hard, especially for the Rockies. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, when you really think about it, how long does this stretch have to go when you're thinking about best Rockies catchers? I mean, he's certainly going to go down as one of the more productive ones, even when the playoff resume and things might not be there as some of the other famous Rockies catchers that we've had before. But man, It's not just the young guys being a factor in games. It's Elias Diaz being a huge factor, being a massive part of the Rockies on defense and a massive part of the Rockies on offense. And that's clearly leading to success and inspiring and helping the other Rockies catchers on the team. It's just like it's really great to see and feel when you see the bottom of the order come up big for your team. It's even better when the catcher is doing it, because that is just such a tough position to find quality play. And just a brief note on Kris Bryant as well. Still not the extra base hits, but I just can't be upset. I'm not going to be too upset. I'm not sounding too many alarms. You can't be mad when the guy goes 500 on the day with a walk and 2 RBI as well. That's fine. Hopefully the power does come back for Kris Bryant, but if he's a guy that's going to consistently get on base and consistently hit the ball into play, allowing for scoring opportunities, we're going to take that. But the Rockies' lack of hitting home runs is going to catch up with them, especially in a game. It didn't matter in a game like this, but hitting home runs was a big factor and a big reason the Rockies have been successful in stealing some wins away. And I believe if the Rockies were using the long ball in that first game, in the first game against the Reds there, they, Moose hitting it, and a lot of great extra base hits. And yes, that was the Brenton Doyle two home run game as well. So it was nice to see, but again, more long balls for the Rockies got to be a thing. And overall, though, okay, it's a good series. It's a 500 series. It's 500 ball. It's all right. It's not stellar, but again, better than it's been. The real test is now, though. I would say since the beginning of the season, since the early start, since the start again, with a couple of division rivals, the Rockies are facing their biggest challenge yet of the season coming up here over the next 3 series with the Rangers, the Marlins, and the Mets. 2 teams in the Mets and the Marlins, especially looking to make sure they do some damage against the Rockies, with both of them fighting in that division and trying to catch some ground and make ground up. The Mets have made some roster moves. They're going to look like a different team. And again, I always have my hesitations about playing the Marlins. We're going to dive more into Reds and Rockies, a little bit more of philosophical stuff, team stuff, big picture stuff tomorrow. A great day, good day, good prayers. Kevin Greenhoe says 6 hits for Harold Castro in this series. Big time. Hitting Harold indeed. Massive. It takes the small players. It takes the utility players. It takes the batters 6 through 9 coming up clutch to win these series and come back in games like they did in Game 3 today. And that's what the Rockies did. Folks, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Thank you so much for joining us and tuning in and making Locked On Rockies your first listen of the day. We're free and streaming on your favorite streaming service. Go check out all the other great Colorado Locked On podcasts. Locked On Nuggets got you covered right now. Pretty cool things happening with the Nuggets, especially after last night. Broncos, Locked On Avalanche, Locked On Buffs, all got you covered as well. Folks, until next time, this is Paul Holden saying so long from the Locked On Rockies podcast.